In the heart of a small village where every face was familiar, lived two sisters, Amara and Zuri. They were born from the same mother, raised under the same thatched roof, but the paths their hearts followed were as different as day and night. Amara, the elder, carried a quiet beauty. Her kindness was like the river, flowing endlessly, touching every soul in the village. She never raised her voice, but when she spoke, people listened. Whether it was helping the old men their baskets or teaching children under the shade of the baobab tree, Amara's days were spent in the service of others. Zuri, on the other hand, was a flame that refused to be tamed. Where Amara was calm, Zuri was fierce. Her laughter was loud, her steps were quick, and her tongue was sharper than the village knife. From a young age, Zuri had watched as praises rained upon Amara. "What a good daughter," they would say. "What a future wife she will be." Each word, though never meant to harm, felt like a thorn in Zuri's chest. The seed of jealousy, once small, had been watered for years. When Obasi, a respected and wealthy trader, arrived in the village looking for a bride, it was no surprise that his eyes settled on Amara. He was tall, his hands calloused from years of honest work, and his presence commanded respect. The village women whispered and giggled, but it was Amara who caught his heart. Zuri watched it all in silence. She watched as Obasi visited their home with gifts, beautiful fabrics, strings of cowrie shells, and baskets filled with palm oil. She watched how their mother's face glowed with pride. And she watched how Amara, humble as always, blushed and lowered her gaze. Each gesture, each smile, dug deeper into Zuri's wounded pride. The day Obasi formally asked for Amara's hand was the day Zuri's heart hardened. She smiled through clenched teeth, congratulated her sister, and even hugged her. But deep within, a storm was brewing, a storm that whispered cruel ideas into her ears. That night, as the village celebrated the engagement, Zuri sat alone under the fig tree, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. She thought of all the times she had been overlooked, all the moments she had been Amara's little sister and never Zuri, the woman of her own worth. In the quiet of the night, a bitter promise took root in her heart: if the world wouldn't give her the life she wanted, she would take it with her own hands. Married life began for Amara with simple joys. The small house Obasi had built was filled with warmth. Amara rose before the sun, sweeping the courtyard, preparing meals, and tending to the small garden they had planted together. Obasi, once known for his cheerful stories and hearty laughter, would return from his trading trips with tales and small gifts. For a while, life was peaceful. But shadows often creep in quietly. Zuri became a frequent visitor. At first, it seemed innocent, just a younger sister helping with chores, bringing laughter into the home. She would sit beside Obasi, asking about his trade routes, pretending to admire his tales. Amara, unaware, welcomed her with open arms. Family, after all, was sacred. But Zuri's intentions were anything but sacred. Her voice was honeyed when she spoke to Obasi. She would laugh at his every joke, her hand lightly brushing his as if by accident. She began to plant seeds of doubt, wrapping them in concern. "Sister, Obasi looks tired these days. Perhaps you should allow him to rest more." Or, "Obasi, you work so hard. I wonder if Amara notices how much you sacrifice." Obasi, at first, shrugged these off. But as days turned into weeks, the words began to take root. Amara started noticing small changes. Obasi's conversations grew shorter. His smiles didn't reach his eyes anymore. He would sit in silence after meals, lost in thoughts, often turning away from Amara's gentle questions. One afternoon, as Amara swept beneath the old baobab tree, her broom struck something odd. Half buried in the soil was a small bundle, wrapped in red cloth and tied with black twine. A chill ran down her spine. She knelt and slowly untied the knot. Inside were items that made her heart race: a lock of Obasi's hair, a chicken's claw, and a small clay figure pierced with thorns. Her hands trembled. Such things were not tokens of affection. They were symbols of dark rituals. Her mind immediately went to Zuri, but her heart resisted the thought. Could her own sister be capable of such a thing? That evening, with the bundle hidden beneath her shawl, Amara sought out Mama Kemi, the oldest healer in the village. Mama Kemi was known for her sharp eyes and words that carried the weight of generations. She listened silently as Amara poured out her heart, revealing her fears. When Amara showed her the bundle, Mama Kemi's face darkened. "Child, this is no longer a sister's jealousy. This is a path that leads to ruin. Someone is trying to sever the bond between you and Obasi, not through words, but through spirits." Amara's eyes welled with tears. "But she's my sister." Mama Kemi placed a wrinkled hand on Amara's shoulder. "Blood does not always guard the heart. You must watch closely now, child. The closer the storm comes, the bolder the winds become." In the days that followed, Amara observed Zuri's every move. She noticed how Zuri called Obasi to her side with small gestures, how her presence filled the house in a way that felt suffocating. The villagers watched too but remained silent, too fearful to meddle in family matters. But Amara's heart, though wounded, was waking up to the truth. The battle had begun not with swords or shouts, but with whispers and shadows. The days turned heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Amara moved through her home with quiet vigilance, each glance at Zuri revealing cracks in the mask of sisterhood. Zuri had grown bolder. She now sat at the family table as if she were the mistress of the house, deciding which traitors Obasi should meet, giving instructions to the servants, even daring to mock Amara's silence with sharp, sweet-tipped remarks. Obasi, trapped in a fog of confusion, followed Zuri's words like a man bewitched. But the whispers had started to reach the elders. Among them was Mama Olamide, a woman whose words could still a quarrel with a mere glance. When Amara confided in her, the elders listened in heavy silence. "This is no longer about a man's foolishness," Mama Olamide said gravely, "this is a battle for the spirit of a home." The elders, guardians of rituals passed down through generations, agreed to help Amara. They would not fight Zuri with weapons but with truth, rituals of purity that could unravel the darkest of charms. Preparations began. They gathered white kola nuts for truth, cowrie shells for protection, palm oil to cleanse, and most importantly, the ashes of the iroko tree, known for its power to reveal what is hidden. Amara was instructed to cleanse herself in river water at dawn and wear a simple white cloth, a symbol of her untainted spirit. But Zuri, oblivious to the quiet resistance building against her, was weaving her final snare. She approached Obasi one evening, her tone laced with false innocence. "Brother Obasi," she began, "our future is being clouded by evil eyes. There is a sacred ritual that can bless our bond and protect us from those who wish us ill. Meet me by the fig tree after sunset. Trust me, this is for your good." Obasi, numbed by the strings Zuri had tied around his spirit, agreed without question. Amara, through whispers passed by the elder women, learned of Zuri's plan. The fig tree was not just any tree. It was a place of old magic, a place where the boundary between light and shadow was thin. Zuri intended to perform a dark ceremony to sever Amara's bond with Obasi forever. But this time, Amara would not be a silent observer. With the elders by her side, she prepared for a confrontation not of anger, but of revelation. They would be at the fig tree before Zuri. They would not stop her, but they would expose her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the village seemed to hold its breath. The fig tree stood tall, its roots tangled like the web of lies Zuri had spun. The night was still, but under its branches, destinies were about to collide. The trap was set, but it was no longer Zuri's game. The night of the ritual had arrived. The moon was hidden, swallowed by a sky thick with clouds. A night where shadows ruled, where truth and deceit were about to meet face to face. Beneath the ancient fig tree, Zuri stood draped in a dark cloth, her hands clutching a calabash filled with a mixture known only to those who walked dangerous paths. Beside her, Obasi stood still, his eyes glazed, his spirit trapped in a web of enchantment. Zuri's lips moved in soft chants, her voice blending with the rustling leaves. She believed herself untouchable. This was her moment, the night she would rewrite her destiny. But fate had chosen a different audience for her performance. From the shadows emerged Amara, dressed in a simple white cloth, her hair unadorned, her feet bare against the earth. With her came the village elders, carrying bowls filled with iroko ashes, cowrie shells, and white kola nuts. They did not come in anger, they came armed with truth. Zuri's chants faltered when she saw them. Her eyes narrowed, but her smile did not fade. "Sister," she sneered, "come to witness your own fading?" But Amara's voice was calm, unwavering. "I came to watch the truth rise, Zuri. You will not bury it under shadows." At Mama Olamide's signal, the elders began their ritual. The ashes of the iroko tree were sprinkled in a circle around Zuri and Obasi. A low hum filled the air, a sound older than any tale, a vibration that made even the leaves pause. Zuri's mockery turned to unease. As the elders chanted, the ashes reacted, swirling upward as if drawn to an unseen force. The calabash in Zuri's hands cracked, spilling its contents onto the ground, hissing as if the earth itself rejected it. Obasi's body trembled, his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath as though freed from invisible chains. His eyes, once dull, flickered with confusion and then horror as they locked onto Zuri. The village had gathered in silent witness. And then, the ashes revealed their final truth. A dark mist rose around Zuri, but instead of cloaking her, it unveiled her. Whispers of every deceitful act echoed in the air, the charm she had hidden in Amara's home, the spells murmured under her breath, the lies wrapped in false concern. The villagers saw not a victim, but a schemer laid bare. Zuri's defiance crumbled. She fell to her knees, but not in repentance, in rage. "You all chose her," she screamed. "All my life, I have been her shadow. Why should she have everything while I am left with nothing?" Amara stepped forward, her heart heavy. "You were never my shadow, Zuri. You chose to walk behind when you could have walked beside me." Zuri's sobs were not of guilt but of a pride that had shattered. The elders declared that a bond broken by dark intentions could not be mended by soft words. Zuri's betrayal had cut deep, and though she was family by blood, her actions had severed her place in the village. The fig tree stood witness as Zuri was exiled, her path now her own to wander alone. As dawn approached, the mist cleared. Obasi, his face stained with shame, bowed his head before Amara. "I let myself be blinded," he whispered. But Amara, though her heart ached, knew that forgiveness was a choice that would come in its own time. That night, the fig tree did not just witness a ritual, it witnessed the power of truth shattering the might of envy. The village awoke to a different silence the next morning. News of what had transpired beneath the fig tree spread from hut to hut, whispered in markets, spoken in hushed tones at water wells. The tale of Zuri's betrayal, the dark rituals, and the elders' intervention had shaken the community. Zuri had been exiled before sunrise, sent away with nothing but the clothes she wore. No farewell, no tears, only the heavy burden of her own choices clung to her as she walked beyond the village borders, her path swallowed by the horizon. But for Amara, the dawn was a different kind of awakening. Obasi, his pride shattered and his heart laden with guilt, approached Amara not as a husband, but as a man seeking forgiveness. "I was blind," he confessed. "Your love was never loud, but it was always true. I let false sweetness drown out your quiet strength. If you wish to cast me away, I will accept it." Amara listened in silence. She had carried the weight of betrayal, not just from Zuri, but from Obasi's own weakness. Yet, her heart, though wounded, had not grown bitter. "I will forgive you," she said softly, "but not because you ask for it. I forgive because I refuse to carry this poison in my spirit." But forgiveness did not mean things would return to what they once were. Amara knew that a house once cracked must be rebuilt, not patched. The path forward required new stones, new walls of respect and truth. With the support of the elder women, Amara chose to rise, not as a wife defined by her husband's name, but as a woman who owned her strength. She began a small trade with the village women, selling handcrafted mats and baskets. What began as a humble effort soon flourished, for the village, having witnessed her grace amidst betrayal, rallied behind her. Obasi, no longer the proud trader who once boasted of his wealth, worked beside Amara quietly, learning humility with every woven reed, every basket sold. In time, their home became a place of learning for young girls, a space where Amara taught them not just to weave fibers but to weave patience, dignity, and self-worth into the fabric of their lives. Zuri's name became a tale told to warn others of the dangers of unchecked envy. But Amara's name lived on as a lesson that strength is not always found in loud voices, but in the silent resilience of those who choose light over darkness. The village would often say, envy may rise like a flood, but truth always finds its shore.